I gotta say this next one's we might not do the whole video on this one because what is this? Oh yeah, this is we don't get to do this very often, but this is um Harris Faulkner's show, I think. Is that what this is? Yeah. Mark Meredith reports in the latest fall civil rights attorney on the Faulkner Focus. Go Faulkner yourself, everybody. But I like the title of this one. Trump's rivals blast Colorado ruling. How does that work? Wait a minute. You mean I can beat him without even having to beat him? What the fuck? Why didn't you tell me earlier? I'd have signed on to this shit. You would have saved me so much money and grief. I could have pretended to like him, and he would be kissing my ass right now. What the fuck? I wouldn't have even had to criticize him? Shit.
The Colorado State Supreme Court had better get ready to fight.
Oh, well, no, they don't actually have to fight. It's a Supreme Court. There's arguments, certainly, but don't be an asshole.
Kicked Donald Trump off the Republican primary ballot, and the former president says he will fight back.
Yeah, but, I mean, metaphorically. Not actually fighting. Fighting is a dumb word for anything that happens, even in a courtroom. I'm fighting for justice. How? With my evidence and briefs and opening and closing statements. It's not really a fight. Well, it's hard. Yeah, but are you punching anyone? Are they punching you? Are there weapons involved? Are there shields? I mean, do you really think that like when Christians were when a lion came out in the Colosseum and there was a Christian there, he was like he filed a brief or wrote a piece of legislation to stop the lion? I'm just saying it's kind of embarrassing. I'm just saying. It's kind of embarrassing.
I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus.
I am? I thought you couldn't see me through the screen. God damn it.
Colorado's highest court claims Donald Trump
and in Colorado, that means that's a triple innuendo. That's because in Colorado it could be, in terms of sea level and also in terms of pot. So it's very high. That might be the highest court in the land, technically, on a couple of levels.
Violated the 14th Amendment by inciting an insurrection.
Yeah, just play the thing.
That decision is unprecedented.
Well, that's because they've never had to use it before, because we never had a dickhead like him in office.
And it just so happens to fall along party lines.
Well, that's more about how Republicans will, even though Republicans have said, well, the court should work this out and he should be subject to the, the legal system. And, who the Republicans that would refuse to impeach him or have him removed from office or removed from the ability to do it, they left this up to the courts, and the courts have decided or whatever. Republicans said he shouldn't be able to run, but we're not the people to do it. And by the way, they could also undo it.
It's the first.
Notice how he's going to fight this and all this stuff, but the presumption is that he's definitely not going to be able to get 2/3. He wouldn't get. Here's the thing: he wouldn't get all the Republicans. If it was a secret ballot, if the House could vote secret ballot, he would not be able to. He wouldn't get 2/3. He wouldn't get 2/3 of the Republicans.
Time Section 3 of the 14th Amendment has
also. Is the graphic supposed to be him pointing at Colorado, or is he trying to stick his finger in the O?
Ever been used to disqualify a presidential candidate.
Well, that's because since the Civil War, it really hasn't come up until now, because nobody's ever had their followers storm up the steps and beat up police officers. What the fuck are you talking about?
Critics and legal analysts point out Trump has never been charged or convicted.
You don't have to be.
Of any.
Have they pointed out that you don't have to be convicted of it?
Anything.
Yeah, you don't have to be charged or convicted. You don't. You think there was a court battle for every former Confederate?
In connection with the January 6th Capitol Hill riot. Trump's campaign with this. Democrat Party leaders are in a state of paranoia over the growing dominant lead President Trump has amassed in the polls.
Are in a state of paranoia? Really? Wouldn't it be panic or something? Paranoia is odd. That feels like a borrowed word. Panic is what you're trying to project onto someone, but paranoia sounds like his daily experience with Trump.
Backlash was fast and furious.
It is a strikingly...
Oh my God, not Jonathan Turley. If he's decided, oh my gosh, not if Turley says it, well, then obviously.
Anti-democratic holding. In my view, the court is dead wrong. This court just
Well, is the amendment right?
handed partisans on both sides the ultimate tool to try to shortcut elections. And it's very, very dangerous. I mean, this country is a powder keg, and this court...
No, it's not. It really fucking isn't. I hear this shit all the time, and Fox wants you to believe it's a fucking powder keg. It ain't. It so fucking isn't. If Trump isn't on the ballot next year, the country is not going to fucking sever and turn into fiefdoms and bullshit. Get the fuck out of here. All the other Republicans will just run to be, I'll really be Trump, and I can serve 2 terms and all that shit. That's what they'll run on. Who gives a shit?
Court is just throwing matches at it.
It is
matches.
Terrifying to me.
They're not lit, though, so that's the thing. They're flicking matches at it, but the matches aren't lit, so it's okay.
As an American, that this kind of lawfare is being waged.
It's an effort to stop Donald Trump not at the ballot box, because right now they don't think they can beat Donald Trump at the ballot.
No, they know they can. It's just he doesn't have the right to run as an insurrectionist. That's the weird part is that this is more about how the Republican Party can't run anybody else that even has a remote chance. That's their fear. If these fuckers had a deep bench at all, this wouldn't be the conversation at all. If they, honest to God, and if they could count on Republican voters to actually show up for anybody but Donald Trump, they'd have moved on way faster.
Box.
I read it. It is a couple of 100 pages of hot garbage.
Woo, hot garbage.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, it does entail stories of Trump, so.
Even Trump's Republican rivals support him. Vivek Ramaswamy says he will withdraw from the Colorado primary ballot.
Yeah, that'll do it. Really? You're not going to wait for Republicans to just withdraw you from it anyways?
Unless Trump is...
Yeah, unless you put him on there, I'm not going to lose. Terribly. Yeah, whatever, Mr. 3%.
on it. He called on the other GOP presidential candidates still in the race to do the
You mean the ones that are actually in double digits?
same.
And they were like, no.
And Colorado's Republican Party responded to Ramaswamy. You won't have to, meaning he won't have to withdraw, because we will withdraw from the primary as a party and convert to a pure caucus system if this is allowed to stand.
I'm sorry. I just... Oh, dear. Not the caucus threat. Oh, so instead of a functioning electoral system that you've had forever, you're just going to get a bunch of people screaming in gymnasiums instead? And you think that's going to work shit out? You do realize that as a Democrat, I think that's hilarious.
In Focus, attorney and Fox News contributor Leo Terrell. We'll begin with Mark Meredith in Ames, Iowa. January 15th is about to get.
And it's hell. Look at Ames, Iowa, man. The whole place is on fire. America is hell. Look at that. You can't go outside without being stabbed.
Get here.
Harris, it sure is. The date is
I can't hear you over the sound of the creaking windmills killing all the birds.
fast approaching, and this morning, former President Trump is getting some support.
And by the way, clearly gas prices are off the roof. That's why that guy can't afford to drive. He has to drive an electric truck.
From his Republican rivals, they're saying
I think that was an electric Hummer pickup. Fucking $100,000 car rolling by him. America is dying on the vine. Obviously, I'm on Main Street, and nobody used to come down here, and now that you can't find parking. It's terrible. And a guy just drove by me in a $100,000 pickup truck. Runs on electricity, which is both butch and gay and weak and strong at the same time. I don't know how to deal with it. It's like I mean, I want to meet that guy, but I'm scared.
That they too are outraged over this decision by the Colorado Supreme Court that it was
Get out of the way. A giant whale is going to beach in Iowa from the windmills. Look out.
essentially keep Trump's name off the ballot in 2024. Former President Trump was here in Iowa just last night. He held a rally in Waterloo. I was a little bit surprised he did not directly mention the Colorado case.
Yeah, that's because he doesn't actually want to be president again. He just doesn't want to go to jail, and he thinks this is running is his only way of stopping that. Seriously.
But during his stump speech, as he's done at these recent rallies,
he stood there like a dickhead while a song played all the way through. like he's some sort of like redneck Mussolini.
urged his supporters to see his legal matters as an attack against all Republicans.
Right, because that's what like televangelists do when they're caught fucking their secretary, is go, they are trying to destroy Christianity by destroying me. That's right. The devil reaches up and tries to tear us all asunder by specifically tempting us, by making us hire secretaries that put out. And that got a little George W. Bush. I don't know why.
They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're
in the end of what?
Moon River. They're not after me. They're after you. I just happen to be standing in their way.
Why are the people in Iowa storming the Capitol or sending their followers to storm the Capitol while cowardly watching it in their living room on television going, look at these assholes destroying their lives for me, Marge, darling, right? And there's always a darling story. So they lied about the building in Manhattan that they have that has 10 fewer floors than they said it did. How does the people in Iowa have buildings that they are telling banks have 73 floors when they only have 62? Did they all exhaust all their legal remedies in court and at the ballot box and then try to bully the governor of Georgia into throwing the election for them? Is Dave still dead? Of course he is, Tom. It's going to stay that way. Yeah, the silence is...
The Trump campaign already vowing to appeal this decision. We'll be looking to see who else maybe files an amicus brief in support within the...
Oh, yes. His lawyers will definitely be on this. His crack team of specialty lawyers who are basically they're just going to scratch off all the slip and fall references in one of their standard filings and then just put in kicked off a ballot. My client stepped in some water at Walmart and therefore should get compensated with millions of dollars. Hold on one second. Was kicked off the ballot and should be compensated with millions of votes.
Last hour, though, we heard from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He is the latest among the GOP candidates to weigh in.
There was no trial on any of.
You're in Urbandale? Urban Forest? Really? Urbandale. All the buildings are made out of trees. We're all Keebler elves here. Welcome to Urbandale.
They basically just said, what, you can't be on the ballot? I mean, how does that work?
I guess you'd have to read the Constitution and the amendments.
The limiting principle for that?
I don't think Donald Trump needs to be president. I think I need to be president. I think that's good for the country. But I will beat him fair and square. We don't need to have judges making these decisions. We need voters to make these decisions.
This case, of course, will go well beyond Colorado. There are more than a dozen states also considering similar legal challenges, trying to keep Trump's name off the ballot. And Harris, just within the...
You know what they can't do? None of these lawsuits can ever keep this awful picture of Trump off the screen at Fox. They're going with this picture forever. Like, it's the only one they could find where he's not orange. His face looks like fucking toilet paper, like a wad of wet toilet paper. And yet they just keep using it because they hate him.
The last few minutes, for the first time, reporters had a chance to get the White House's reaction.
By the way, I'm so glad they have somebody live on the ground in Colorado, Iowa. You can't afford the fucking flight to, what's a flight from Ames, Iowa to Colorado? Obviously, you can't, you're not going to fly coach. Well, you might fly Spirit and get one of the big and wide seats. So you're, what, $212 round trip?
To what has been happening, the White House was asked whether or not.
Also, besides the electric Hummer we saw drive by earlier, which is obviously, part of the problem and not the solution, is anybody else noticing the gas guzzlers rolling by in the background? Everybody's got some sort of and this is snow truck land, so.
They think Trump should be kept off the ballot if they think he's an insurrectionist. The White House offering a no comment right now. The president hasn't weighed in yet. This was his staff on Air Force One on his way to Wisconsin. But Harris obviously will be looking to see if the president has any specific reaction to this. But the White House.
Yeah, he said he's like, I think it's clear he's an insurrectionist, but that's up to the courts to decide whether he should be on there. I got no comment. That's what he said.
Right now saying we're staying out of this.
Look,
Harris,
you're in the place in 26 days, like I.
Yeah. No, he's in Iowa. He's not in Colorado. It's the big one it's March. That's kind of important, but you shouldn't point out that he's in the wrong state for the story. Just saying.
Started with January 15th, where we're going to see our first primary challenge, the Iowa caucus. It will be interesting to see.
Also, you can have him taken off the ballot, but people, because it's a federal office, can still write him in. And if ultimately he's able to, his votes will be able to be counted in theory. So Coloradans who like Trump will just have to write his name in, I guess.
Whether or not during that caucusing, people start.
Look out! Potatoes! Look out, you're going to be run over by potatoes! Iowa spuds are coming after you! Get out of the street!
We've seen the president tick up in the polls when there's been pressure on him in any way, shape, or form.
Uh-huh. That's what he's doing.
You might say. Good to see you.
Yeah, he can't hold office. That is true. But people can write in Mickey Mouse legally. Yeah. The write-ins will be blocked too, as is true. Yeah. I just want him to do it.
Thank you. Leo Terrell, Fox News contributor, civil rights attorney. Leo, I want to start right there. The president staying pretty mum about this.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to be president.
I know legally you love that. So what should happen?
What? Bullshit. You can't say legally you love that because you got to keep quiet because you don't want to fuck with this whole thing. Meanwhile, he's blabbing every fucking day outside the New York courtroom, and they're like, good on him for pushing back.
Happen next on his behalf.
Yeah, he blathers on and on about his business being fined and maybe having to shut down his business in New York and just, by the way, move the existence of his business to another state like Florida or some shit. Like, get the fuck out of here. But he's there every day. But this comes up, the one thing that could literally make a difference in him being able to be president. And he's like, oh, no, I can't be president? What? Oh, shit.
Well, I'll tell you, Harris, thanks for having me on this subject. We need a profile and courage moment from President Biden, who's a lawyer, and Kamala Harris. This is the most anti-democratic ruling. 4 Democratic judges are telling the citizens of Colorado, you cannot select the candidate of your choice.
Yeah, because you cannot vote for an insurrectionist because that's what the Constitution says.
This is something that is impossible to even imagine. Because
no, it isn't. It's so easy to imagine. They amended the Constitution to fucking add it specifically after the Civil War.
Because President Trump, at least,
you know what's impossible to imagine? The federal government quartering soldiers in your house. And yet, it's such a possibility that they had to write an amendment that says you can't. You can't assign a soldier to live in my house. You can't do it. Right? That's they imagined that happening too.
Understanding the law is not guilty of any charge.
You don't have to be guilty of a charge. You just have to participate in this. And I got news for you. That's because after the Civil War, they literally backed off and said, okay, no harm, no foul. You're still a citizen, but if you had already been an officer in the U.S. government, or you were serving some status in the military or something like that, you can't run again. You can't do it if you already swore an oath. It's a pretty narrow group of people.
Under the impression you're...
Honest to God, let me tell you something. If Trump hadn't served his first term already, but had lost the 2015 and pulled this shit off in January of 2017, January 6, 2017, if he'd have done it, he could still run again. Even January 6th being exactly as it was. He holds a rally, because there's a bunch of people who weren't elected to office, holding a rally in Washington, D.C. He managed to stand this whole fucking thing up, and then he tells his people to go down there and attack and all this shit. That motherfucker could still run. He could. Because he hadn't yet sworn an oath. And their argument was not that he didn't do this. It was that I didn't swear an oath to the Constitution. I'm the president. I'm above the Constitution, which is just fucking lunacy.
Innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. That's why there's a secondary remedy. It is up to the Congress, both houses, the House and the Senate, to make that decision. It's not innocent until proven guilty. That is not the fucking stand. Jacob Chansley would be disqualified? Yes, because I think he was in the military previously, right? Anybody who was a police officer or a federal employee or and or even, I guess technically, a state office holder who acted out on Jan 6 or whatever. Literally. Okay, so Jan 6, 2017, if Trump had done this shit and the same people went, a bunch of those fuckers would not be able to run for federal office because they were in the military, or they were even on a state level. Most like people in state houses swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States and the state constitution. Yes, Trump has the burden of proof that he has to prove he's not an insurrectionist because he swore an oath. It's like perjury. It's much more akin to the law around perjury.
I would submit to you, Harris, and the view.
Because you've already taken the oath. So if you're found to have committed perjury, you can't fight back and go, I wasn't perjuring myself, because it is self-evident in and of itself.
President Trump has not been guilty or been found convicted of a federal crime.
Yeah. A, he will be. And B, you don't have to be. Why the fuck are these people not realizing this? Why, everybody who's talking about this on the Republican side, maybe it's just because they're stupid themselves, or they're just trying to sell this to the base.
And the Supreme Court has to rule not 5-4, Harris, 9-0 to Senate.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mike Pillow 2.0.
A message to every state in this country that the Constitution prevails and President Trump is a viable candidate on the ballot.
So the argument is also that he hasn't been charged in the rioting on January 6th. So you talk about no conviction on any of the counts against him. This specifically, though, is tied.
I got news for you, asshole. Again, this isn't a random person. This is somebody who was the president of the United States, somebody who's taken an oath, and he has specifically referred to the Jan 6ers that attacked the Capitol, that were found guilty in a court of law of being part of an insurrection. He's called them hostages, said he will pardon them, believes that they are political prisoners, and all this other shit. That is aid and comfort. That is included in it. If he'd have just kept his fucking mouth shut, if he'd have pardoned all these assholes silently, he could make an argument in court. This is how fucking stupid Trump is. If he'd have pardoned all the Jan 6ers and said they misunderstood what I was saying, and a lot of them believed that what I meant was attack that, and I didn't mean that, and so some of these people got caught up in that, and they went there, and that was not the intention of that day, he could have let all of them go and still been able to run for office. But he won't shut the fuck up about it, and he keeps pushing it even further. This is the aid and comfort part. He has promised that he will release them, and he's even lately referred to them as hostages. Like, at a certain point, just shut the fuck up. This is so lame. How does this not even occur to them?
To that,
you have to at least look. If you're not gonna, you can't pretend this doesn't exist. You have to at some point go, at least the some people say part. Remember, Fox used to be big on the some people say shit. So they at least got to float this idea that some people are saying that he's giving aid and comfort and blah, blah, blah. And have somebody go, that's ridiculous. Even though it's not, have them at least answer this shit.
By the state of Colorado. And we're learning more, by the way, about the 4 Democrat-appointed Colorado justices who kicked Trump off the ballot. We circled them for you, so you'll know.
You didn't have your graphics guy couldn't clear a bullseye?
Who they are. 3 are Ivy Leaguers.
Oh, my God. So they studied. By the way, remember when Trump used to brag that he was an Ivy Leaguer? Is Horton Ivy League? He acts like it is. I never really looked that part of it up.
One of them is something of an icon in the gay community.
Oh, okay. So that'll do it. Yeah. One of them is kind of an icon in the gay community. Well, I don't know why this person would be upset, because I thought Donald Trump said he was the best president for LGBT people ever.
Another is a jazz musician.
Oh, you know what that means. Heroin. Probably listens to Billie Holiday and hangs out with black people.
They say
jazz musician. What the fuck?
They had, quote, little difficulty coming to their decision. The 3 Republicans on the court all voted in favor of Trump.
Really? And so these folks wrote 100 pages about why they struggle with this decision, but it's pretty clear. And then these 3 just went, no, 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 and no. And that's the argument. That's the counter. Is that what we're doing?
Is this partisan?
But excuse me, I would like to know if the other 3 at least play an instrument, because I don't know for a fact, but this guy looks a lot like the trumpet player that played with Billy Gibbons the other night. I know he's not, but very, very similar. Just saying. And that guy could blow, man. That guy was amazing. But also, that guy has an upright bass at home that he's been looking to get back to in a while. You know, he's been like, it stares at me and I should get working on it again, but I lost my calluses and it just hurts to play, you know. I got blisters on my fingers.
Republicans on the court all voted in favor of Trump.
Shocking. Why is that not the partisan part?
Is this partisan?
Hal, do not ever say that guy can blow ever again.
As partisan as it looks.
Yes, Harris.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, the hardest thing for me is for people to try to assume that the legal system is working.
The hardest thing for you is for people to try to assume that the legal system is working. Try to assume. Oh, it's just word salad. Okay, I got you. It's just gibberish. I'm sorry. I was trying to make sense of that.
This is all politics. It's all politics. You just laid.
Well, I would agree. I think the Republicans that are on there voted to support him, even though they know it's wrong. They voted to support Trump. Yeah, it's politics. They're all. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but one of them is a country musician. Huh? The other one has a cousin who goes to monster truck rallies. Eh? I think you know where I'm going with this.
Now, the background of these individuals, their party affiliation. It is silly for anyone to honestly believe that the legal system is working correctly.
No, it's not. Well, I mean, arguably, unless you're saying that it's silly for anybody to believe that the Trump voters on that panel did so because on the merits and not just because they support Trump.
The legal system has been hijacked. It is a dual system of justice against President Trump. And if anyone...
Boo fuckity who
honestly looks for a legal analysis as to the decision of yesterday by the Colorado Supreme Court, you're kidding yourself.
Okay, do me a favor. While they're on screen, somebody please put up the 14th Amendment and Section 3 specifically so that both of these assholes can see the aid and comfort part. Hold on. I always have to do it myself. Every time. Now I'm going to try it. I try to do it. Always trying to make me do shit. I want to spend most of my time just making silly jokes about these fucking ridiculous folks, but they always make me do extra work. No person, even if they have a doofy fucking hairdo and orange skin and think the Filet-O-Fish at McDonald's is called a fish delight and live in a rental property in Florida, no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid and comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, removes such disability. That's the one area, because you've already taken a motherfucking oath. You've already taken the oath. So the standard for you is higher than the average fucking person. Because I got news for you. Anybody who didn't previously take an oath, who was there on Jan 6 and participated in this shit, they can run for office. All of them can. And it wouldn't matter at all. It wouldn't even come up. But because this is based on the fact that you already took an oath. This is not based on your individual liberties as a human being. When you take an oath, it narrows what you're allowed to do and with whom and to whom. It's one of the reasons, by the way, for the record, why the FISA lie that they always talk about, that somebody modified one of these FISA warrants to keep spying on Carter Page, who's a fucking asshole, who used to work for Gazprom, and then he's fucking a runner for Trump between him and fucking Russians at the RNC. Good Lord. That the reason why the lie on that FISA thing benefited him by this guy changing it. What he took off was that Carter Page had previously been a source for some CIA dude. They'd asked him questions and they'd gotten information from him. And they took that off. You know why? Because as an average citizen, the FISA court will say, okay, you can't just use the FISA court on an average American citizen. They can make mistakes. You can overstep your bounds. They're not held to a regular standard. Americans are just being Americans and stuff. But if you have taken an oath or you have been a source previous, that means that you are privy to or have been seen to be privy to previously, stuff in regard to national security. And therefore, we might have to keep a look on keep an eye out for what you might be doing. That's why we got to look at you a little harder, because you previously have been involved in all this shit. This has nothing to do with the rights of the citizenry to blah, blah, blah. This has to do with the fact that Trump took an oath and he blew it. He fucking blew it. And by the way, I want to say thank you while I'm at this to our trolls that are here today. Thank you for being here, because you give us a gift that nobody else in the chat room can give us. You spread us out into the interwebs in a way that our regular viewers can't, because all of them, if my stuff shows up with their stuff, it makes sense in the algorithm, but you boost us into it. And I got to tell you, the one gift, everybody wonders what the greatest gift you can give somebody is. During the holidays especially, the greatest gift you can give is time. I've always said it's better to waste money than time, because you can get more money. Time, once it's spent, is gone. And I want to thank the trolls who spend their time here, because on the one hand, they're pissing into the wind and wondering why their face is wet. But also on the other side, they're not someplace else where they might actually upset somebody, because our group here, we don't shake easily. We're not scared easily. So we kind of enjoy you guys dicking around in the background. It's kind of hilarious. So thanks for the overspray. Shall don't tell them. I have to tell them because it's the holidays, and I gotta let them know, what we really think. I'm not hiding that from them. And again, I genuinely mean it. And eventually, if they're not careful, they might learn something. So, thanks trolls for being here. Don't forget to give a thumbs down at some point, because I got to tell you also, the algorithm doesn't give a fuck. If you, and especially on Facebook, if you write a bunch of shit, or if you're angry, I don't like this show, or use the angry emoji. I tell everybody, if you're on Facebook right now, please give me an angry emoji right now, because the algorithm, for whatever reason, I think it's emotional content. We need emotional content. You have to have that to drive it up into the Facebook algorithm. That helps more than anything else. Smiley faces, for whatever reason, doesn't fucking do it. But on Facebook, if you do the angry emoji, that helps a lot. Eddie, there's no thumbs down button. I know. We know, Eddie. We know. Okay, here we go. Back to why these assholes think that Trump is having his rights taken away because he violated his oath of office.
It is pure politics, plain and simple, Harris.
Politico Playbook, speaking of politics, had this on the Colorado decision, quote, "The impact on the primary seems clear enough. If anything, it will help Trump rallying his most fervent supporters and forcing even his most bitter rivals to defend him."
Yeah, it didn't work, actually. Basically, they were like, I don't need this to beat him. They weren't defending him, though. They were like, yeah, it's true, but wait, I don't need it. That was what Nikki Haley said. And even, even DeSantis, I wouldn't call that, I wouldn't say he was defending him. Nah, at all. And also, he's only got his most fervent supporters left. That's all he's got left.
Well, all of that is already happening. And for any doubters, Trump's poll numbers jumped by nearly 10 points after his first indictment by a Manhattan DA.
And he still only has 50% of his own party.
Alvin Bragg. His numbers held steady through the next 3 indictments and continued to grow. An average of national polling now has him at 63% in voters' choice for the Republican nomination.
RCP averages for GOP primary race. Now, the way she was talking about it, you'd almost think she was talking about national numbers, about how popular he is, right? That's would be the assumption. That's what most people looking at this and listening to what she just said and seeing that picture. Look at this thing. Look at all these dates. Look at and then as long as you don't read the text over here, as long as you don't realize that's just Republicans because a bunch of people are dumping out or not calling themselves Republicans anymore.
I was just saying that at the end of Mark Meredith's great reporting, that this only potentially helps Trump, but it hurts the system.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the system I'm worried about.
It destroys the system. Harris, there are...
Yeah, what were they thinking of after the Civil War putting this shit in there?
People who dislike President Trump. But
No, that's not fair. I don't dislike President Trump. It's not even a matter of like or dislike or even hate. I find him disgusting. Folks, I gotta say, you're just gonna we're just gonna pretend it's a fucking wash. This you think the category of like and dislike has anything to do with this? There you go. As a matter of fact, why don't we just see? And there you go. There you go. Let's just have this one of him just kind of hanging out so that two of them can enjoy this, right? Maybe these guys want to listen in. Yeah? Right? So this is about so the idea, the concept here, where's Clinton? I don't know. It's interesting because Clinton flew on his plane a couple of times. And if he participated in any of this shit, fuck him. I don't care. End of story. Yeah. And I would argue that if you flew with him after he was, it was well known what he was up to, which is, I think, anytime after, say, 1996, probably was when the first real stories started coming out. If you kept flying with that motherfucker, bye-bye. RFK flew with him as well. That's right. Meanwhile, the only thing that eventually broke up him and Trump was that he tried to fuck one of the daughters of one of the big high rollers that went to Mar-a-Lago. He didn't give a rat fuck when Epstein was fucking the high school girls in Palm Beach County. Fucking keep inviting him to the goddamn party. Everybody fucking knew. But then he was just mad because he fucked with one of the like fancy people that comes to Mar-a-Lago. He didn't give a shit. And by the way, he may have done it with like the daughters of other people who were there. It was just this particular dude, or Trump fucking found out.
System is being challenged. What makes us unique is our rule of law, and it's being questioned. And Trump hates.
No, it's not. There's a law. There's a law about giving aid and comfort. He just referred to the fuck Jan 6ers as hostages. He said he would pardon them, even though he didn't when he had a fucking shot. Oh yeah, and Chomsky too. Chomsky was on this and he asked him for financial advice like well after he was arrested. What the fuck?
Leaders are now supporting Trump on the issue that he deserves to be on the ballot. He deserves to face the voters, not 4 judges.
Yeah, he deserves to all the voters who want to look past the fact that he wished Ghislaine Maxwell well, and that this guy, Jeffrey Epstein, was arrested during his presidency. They partied together for 2 fucking decades. Let me say something. Okay. All those Trump knows the best people, hashtag the best people. Okay. Apparently, he had no idea that Jeff Sessions and Bill Barr would turn on him. He had no idea Chris Wray would turn on him. Every member of anybody that he added to his cabinet that eventually went, I fucking hate that guy. They were like, I had no idea. Somebody else recommended him, and I had no idea, even though I know the best people, and blah, blah, blah. On top of that, he partied with that motherfucker for 2 goddamn decades, and even said in an interview, he likes his ladies kind of young, if you ask me. He fucking knew. He fucking knew. He didn't give a shit until it might have bit him in the ass business-wise. So all this is about is whether or not, like, MAGA and Trump world will get the chance to vote for a dude who partied with Jeffrey Epstein for 2 fucking decades. Yeah, I mean, he and Ghislaine and Melania. Trump talked about like whether or not Tiffany, before she was born, would have his wife's tits. He would talk his own daughter. He was like, if I was gonna say sex. Remember that shit? And you're okay with that? Like, maggots are cool with that. They think it's charming. They think it's funny, cool, and awesome that he flew to Little St. James Island and back and forth across the fucking country in, what they thought was like an international airspace because it was so high in the sky that the laws don't apply.
And this is our problem right now. Our legal system is being tested. And this is why the Supreme Court has to rule 9-0, Harris. It has to rule 9-0.
Yeah, it's not going
to. Those lawyers.
By the way, the Supreme Court's just going to go, there's a remedy. The House has to vote on it. The House and Senate can vote to give him the rights back. That's it. He doesn't have to be, it doesn't say he has to be convicted. It says participate or give aid and comfort after taking an oath. The oath itself is what narrows his rights and available rights in this situation. Fuck, these guys are dumb.
Those judges know what is right, and 9-0 is the only ruling that they could come up with.
No, it isn't. They already have a remedy. The remedy is a vote in the House and Senate.
Can other states look at this and try to do the same thing?
Yeah. Yes. Other states can look at Donald Trump and go, a lot of pictures of this dude with Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know if we want him on our ballot.
Right now, yes. Until the Supreme Court rule, yes. And this is what you're having. You're having 50 possible different outcomes because they don't like a particular candidate. In this situation, they don't like President Trump. Due process out the window.
Also, for the record, I might add, there's almost materially no difference in policy between what DeSantis would do or Ramaswamy or even Nikki Haley or Chris Christie. Like, there's very few things that they would do differently from Trump ultimately. They just wouldn't be as belligerent and fucked up about it. The only thing they wouldn't probably do is openly gargle Putin's balls, you know, on stage in front of the entire world. But everything short of that, and certainly behind closed doors, yeah, you like drone strikes with no rules of engagement, killing civilians, you know, willy-nilly, you're going to get it with all four of those motherfuckers. But this isn't about whether or not Trump, you know, faces Biden or whether the Republicans are going to get what their priorities are as, you know, in terms of what they want for the country. Nothing. This is about whether these assholes are fighting about, I don't want to have to vote for these other four fuckers. That's it. This is more a battle between Republicans not, you know, wanting to vote for Trump and not wanting to vote for these four other assholes.
And Harris,
even though they would get the exact same thing out of the presidency.
You don't even need a conviction to even make such a ruling. That's what the Colorado Supreme Court has done. They have opened up a Pandora box that allows every state to make their own individual ruling in defiance of the Constitution. This is a scary day.
Yeah, it's not in defiance. Seriously, I mean, I don't think around, what would be the equivalent? After the Civil War, if somebody, you know, who had been an officer in the Union or had been a president or a vice president or in the cabinet or something like that, or a military officer, had written an article in a newspaper about how the Confederacy was right, that person would not have been allowed to run for president, even if there were states in the Southern territories that would still want it. That's why the rule had to, because there were still people who would fucking do that. Jesus Christ, the Jesse James gang were like basically Confederates, leftover, like dead-ender Confederates who were trying to steal from northern banks.
Hey, Harris, I can't say it enough as a lawyer for 33 years who loves this country.
Really quickly, how fast can it happen that the U.S. Supreme Court would consider this?
The moment that petition is filed by President Trump to appeal this decision, the Supreme Court can work at warp speed to send a message.
Oh, so it'll take them somewhere between 2 years, like Operation Warp Speed. And also, just like Operation Warp Speed, no matter what happens at the end of it, none of his supporters will believe it.
A ruling out immediately to make sure there's a uniform system of qualifying on the ballot. So I encourage the Supreme Court to move quickly.
Well, there's one other factor that I think is important here, is how stupid the brief is, how stupid the actual legal writing is. Because it's not Trump who's drafting this, which would probably, you know, considering the quality of his lawyers, as horrifying and stupid and blathering as it would be, it might even be an improvement. I don't know. But you have to understand, it's like the Habbas, right? We're talking about the Habbas of the world. Habba, habba, habba.
And I encourage Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to have a profile encouraged moment and say this is wrong.
Yeah, you calling on them with that, I can't.
Yeah, I'm sure they're watching.
Wait to follow the news on that, because that will spread.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they were both watching the Faulkner fuck off or whatever this show is, and they what choice did they have?
Leo Terrell, thank you for your expertise and your time. And
what expertise? What expertise? I'm dead serious. And honestly, like, they bring up that he's a lawyer and he's been in a courtroom, but not all areas of law are created equal. Yeah.
Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah, see? You get me? Merry fucking Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, Harris. You do a great job. Thanks for having me.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone. Just real quick, I don't know what the fuck that was about.